Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video for you. So this is going to be my first out and about video in Connecticut, and we're at this place behind me here. This is New England Brewing Company in Amity, which is kind of between Hamden, where I've been staying with Laura and Josh, and New Haven, which is a slightly bigger city to the south. But this is meant to be a very good brewery. It's one that was very close to Laura and Josh, so Josh has very kindly brought me down. And what we're going to do as we always do, we'll go in, we'll have a wee walk around, we'll try some of the beers, and we'll just see how we get on. So let's do this one. New England Brewing Company in Amity, near Hamden and New Haven in Connecticut. Let's get started. Alright guys, so this is the exterior of New England Brewing, and yeah, it's quite a nice looking place, I have to say. It's very, very warm up here in Connecticut, but that's the thing, is it can get extremely cold in the winters. But yeah, they've got this lovely kind of canopy and stuff outside. You can sit out here and enjoy the beers. So we'll film some tastings in a few different places, but yeah, these are the surroundings. It's quite nice. So yeah, just to let you see under the tent and things, this is quite nice for the summer, and it's actually just quite a nice temperature under here. So yeah, I've got a little stage there, I guess, where they do a few different things. You can see into the brewery a little bit, but yeah, the main entrance to the place is right over here. Got the palm trees out, which is kind of fun. But yeah, you can smell the mash tun and things as well, which is good. So yeah, you come in the main entrance here. You can see the bar over there, which is really nice. The brewery's just up through there. You've got your merch stand there. And yeah, I just filmed the first tasting over here, and we've got this sexy man here, Mr. Josh, who's going to join us for one of the tastings.
There we go,
so yeah. So yeah, there's a little stand. I think it's time to go back to the bar and get beer number 2. So let's do this. Alright guys, well, time for our first tasting then here at New England Brewing Company. So yeah, I thought we would go with one of their flagship beers to start off with. So this one is called Introduction to Nebco. It comes in at 4.8% ABV, and it looks like it's going to be a sort of German Helles lager type deal. So yeah, when the beer poured, it had about a half finger of frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head, maybe ivory colour. And you can see that this one has a lovely kind of bright pale golden straw colour to it. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, type of malts that you use, that goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of the wort ball is going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get darker coloured beer. Any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour too. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that when it comes to lager beers, of course. Now, yeah. As I said, this one looks as if it's going to be a sort of German-style Helles type lager. The Czech equivalent of that, of course, is the Svetli, the blonde lager. But yeah, remember, the technical definition of a lager is a beer that undergoes fermentation using a bottom fermenting yeast at colder temperatures. So yeah, this definitely looks as if it's going to be more of a Helles type lager, this one. So nothing unusual about the appearance of this beer then. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what it's all about. Oh yeah, aroma wise, definitely sort of German Helles type lager, this one. For me, generally speaking, when it comes to German lagers versus Czech ones, the Czech ones tend to be a bit more yeasty and kind of smoother and things like this, but they've got a bit more spiciness in their floral character because of the Czech hops. But the German ones tend to be quite crisp and quite light and sort of a little bit drier, to be honest with you, as well. But the thing I've found with American brewed lagers is that they tend to be a little bit sort of sweeter and things, just because it's just a different type of malts, basically. American malt is a little bit sweeter, I think, than European malt. So yeah, for me, backbone of this beer is a lovely kind of fresh white ready bread crust. On top of that, you get a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, you get a little touch of woodiness in there as well. But then yeah, it's a lot of like sweet white bread. I found that a lot of American white bread has this kind of yellow tint to it, and I think that's to do with the wheat. But this beer really smells like a lot of the American white bread I've had quite recently. So yeah, for me, on top of that, you have a little bit of, you do have a little touch of like a slight biscuity aroma from the malt base in this one, which is quite nice. So yeah, like the Americans of course would call this cookies, but to me it's more like a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing that comes out of this. But yeah, to be honest, as you would expect from a sort of Helles lager, it's quite a straightforward beer, so not too much else we need to say about the malty kind of things. On the hoppy side of the beer then, definitely a little bit of a sort of smooth, earthy character, a little bit of herbal note too, but the green component for me is mainly quite wet. You've got this nice kind of wet floral aromaticity to it, a little bit of a wetter grassiness too. It does smell like it might be like German Hallertauer Tettnang hops Mittelfrüh probably. It doesn't smell as if it's too high in terms of its alpha acid quality. So yeah, probably just Mittelfrüh, 4.5% alpha acid hops. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, on the fruity side of things for me, this beer's quite, it has like a sort of sultana type note to it, you know, white green raisins. It's got a little bit of that. Little bit of a kind of oily pear, maybe a little touch of like a fresh green apple, but yeah, it's really nice. It's very straightforward. It's everything you'd expect of the style. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But let's have a look at this one, just so I don't bugger up the name. Yeah, this one is the Welcome to Nebco Lager, 4.8% ABV. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, it's nice. Yeah, absolutely. That's Czech Svetli, German Helles type lager beer, this one. Really nice, very, very nicely done, solid stuff. And you know, when I come to visit a brewery, I always like to get a good scope of what a brewery's all about. So it's always nice to do a lager, an IPA or two, depending if they've got different varieties on, and then something a bit darker, or a sour as well. You want a good scope of what a brewery is all about. So yeah, for me, this is a really nice example of the Helles. I look for authenticity in these German style beers. I want them to taste as they would in Germany. So yeah, for me, this is solid. Middle third of your palate, you've got that lovely fresh white bread crusty backbone to it. There is a wee bit of cracker in there and a very slight little bit of wood. But yeah, then above that, there's maybe a very slight touch of like a slightly sweeter, like wholemeal brown bready character. But then yeah, lots of fluffier white bread in there. The bread incidentally does have a good little bit of density to it, and I think that kind of contributes to the sweetness. Again, I think this is just a difference in the American and European malts. You know, if you compare German Crystal to American Turo, if you've tried quite a few beers, it's quite obvious after a wee while. So yeah, the type of flavour you're getting is what you expect from the style, but to me it's just that little bit sweeter. So lovely dense white bread, like I said. On top of that, you've got a nice like McVitie's digestive biscuit. You know, you've got a little circle in the middle of your tongue. In the dead centre, you've got a bit more of an oily biscuit. That's the concentration of the alcohol. And as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more like sort of crisp and grainy in a sense. So that's really nice as well. Yeah. I do like how this all goes together. It's really nice in that sense. On the back third of the palate, you're getting similar flavours, but just the yeasty character on top. So again, you've got that bread crust, you've got the brown bread in there, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, the white bread, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, a wee bit of the kind of biscuity note just creeping over the top, and then you've got that nice sort of yeasty character sitting on top. And for me, the yeasty side of this beer, it's like a slightly more dense kind of white bread, but it's got a bit more sweetness to it. There's a bit of crackery and woody character in there, and it's almost as if it's wrapped in honeycomb. I always get honeycomb on the back third of the palate with the yeasty character for some reason. But definitely, back third of the palate, the flavour is taller. As you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it kind of condenses down and squashes together. So, hoppy side of things then. It actually, the more that I drink of this one, it makes me wonder if there are Czech hops in here, because it has a wee bit more spiciness to it. But yeah, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of smooth earthiness, wee bit of herbal character, and as you come further forward you get a little bit more floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of the tongue it's a little bit lighter, a little bit more grassy, and has a wee bit of zestiness to it. But as I say, generally speaking, the green component in this beer is quite wet. Let's look at the front third of the palate then, and the fruitiness. So yeah, again, it's kind of what you'd expect. In the base, you've got the white bread, you've got the fresh white bread crust, the wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. Then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. Back of the front third of the palate is, sultana, white, green raisins, basically. As you move further forward from that, oily pear for sure. And then, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's got a little bit of gooseberry to it, a little bit of fresh green apple just behind the front tip of the tongue. But yeah, I think that covers everything we need to say about the fruity side of the beer. That's everything we need to say about the flavour of the beer too. Mouthfeel-wise, it's kind of light-bodied. It's pushing toward the kind of middle part of the spectrum on the light-bodied end. Carbonation is very smooth. Quite an oily lager, this one. As I say, these beers are just a bit sweeter in America for me. I think the American palate, generally speaking, is a little bit sweeter. But yeah, IBU-wise, I think 20-ish IBUs, which is about standard for this style. And yeah, the malt base, bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle with a little bit of sweetness and a wee bit of a sweeter character on top. Then you've got the lovely oily fruity notes out of this one. But that's a really nice Hellas. I could quite easily tan a half litre of this. I'm still getting used to the American units, but I think this one was a 7-ounce pour. Was that right? 7-ounce pour? Yeah, 7-ounce pour this one. So yeah, you could quite easily tan a half litre of this, which is like 17 ounces or something like that. So yeah, lovely lager this one. So that was the Welcome to Nebco Lager, 4.8% ABV. One of their kind of flagship beers, so this was a really nice place to start. So let's leave it at that for this one, and I'll catch you guys in just a second with something else. Let's do this. Alright guys, so this is the tap list they have on here at New England Brewing Company. Just for reference, we're here on the 5th of September 2023. So yeah, quite a nice selection of stuff actually. They have the Diskulch Inferno, the Czech Dark Lager, Schnitzenigels, and then the Nebco Lager. Then the next one along has a few of the sour beers. So there's the Trash Berry and the Tropical Trash. I think those are both Berliner Weisses, if I remember rightly. They've also got the Weiss Trash down in the bottom corner there. Everything else, I think, is IPAs. So yeah, they've got Beans Galaxy IPA, Supernaut, Baby Bot, Fuzzy Baby Ducks, which apparently is very popular, Face Hugger, Spin Cycle, Closer to Free Ride, the Sea Hag IPA, which is their classic IPA, or their core range IPA I should say, Double Fuzzy up there, Supernaut Double IPA, the G-Bot, and then the Stegosaurus. So yeah, quite a nice selection on tap here. Not too much in the way of darker beers, but I think in America it tends to be that your stouts and imperial stouts and things like that come on more toward the winter. But yeah, pretty nice actually. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 2 then here at New England Brewing Company. I'm joined by this dashing young man.
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, this is Josh's first. Yeah, this is your first time on the channel, isn't it?
First time on the channel.
Probably, maybe in this video you might meet a guy called Miles who's been on the videos before. We'll need to see if he gets here. But yeah, Josh wanted to join in for 1 or 2 of the tastings, and it's always nice to have him. So beer number 2 that we're doing is simply called Czech Dark Lager. So we've already been through the technical definition of a lager. In Germany, this type of lager beer would be called a Dunkel. In the Czech Republic, it would be called a Černý. So essentially, it's like a mahogany, chestnutty brown coloured lager beer. So yeah, appearance-wise, when this one poured, it had like a half finger of a frothy sort of ivory coloured head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ivory coloured head. And I don't know how well you guys are going to see this on the camera, but if you shine the light through this, it's really pretty much crystal clear. It's got this lovely, as I say, kind of chestnutty, slightly ruby type colour to it. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation. And when it comes to this particular style, It's nothing unusual. As I said, the main difference between the Czech variant of this style is that it's a bit more yeasty, bready and smooth. The German one tends to be a little bit drier and slightly more grainy, to be honest. So yeah, will we do the nose?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you get?
I'm getting more coffee. Coffee, chocolate. I say like almost a licorice.
I can see licorice, yeah. And I can see, yeah, for me the chocolate, you know, it's like a kind of slight like cocoa nib, you know, like a drier cocoa nib. Because for me, this one is like rye bread crust. I get a lot of that out of this one. And the American bread, I think, I've said this, you heard me saying that with the last one, I find the American malts are just that little bit sweeter than the German or Czech ones. So this, pardon me, the sort of rye bready character that you get out of this is a little bit more, it's just sweeter, you know, it's like caramelized rye bread, yeah. But, yeah, a wee bit of like cocoa nib. What do you think about like brown sugar and things?
Yeah, you know what? Without a doubt, it's kind of like caramelized and powdered sugar, like on like a skillet. You kind of like get that smell, like it's almost kind of I want to say like it's like a brown sugar butter. Like what you get is more of like, it almost smells like chocolate in a sense. Like, if you want to go home, put a little butter in the pan, a little bit of brown sugar, and just kind of like let it just kind of like sauce up a little bit, you're going to get exactly what the flavor of this beer is. You're going to smell a little bit of chocolate with like almost like a hint of butter, light hint of butter.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, really toasty brown sugar, but you get this more like Josh was saying, this kind of like more dry, it's not quite treacle, not quite molasses, it's a bit too bright for that. But you do get, for me, I get a little bit of woodiness and nuttiness out of this beer too, like undertones.
For sure, I mean, you can definitely like smell like a little nutmeg, I'd say.
What do you think about the hoppy side of things, like green component? So I'm getting like a little bit of like smooth earthiness, herbal. But it's more grassy. It leans toward like a kind of more grassy kind of green component, I would say.
You say you got that. I want to say like more of like maybe like a hint of like Earl Grey.
Yeah. So you think more herbal type thing? Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. I get, for me, it's like earthy. I get the earthy character a bit more. It's always interesting to do this with different people, because obviously different people perceive things in different ways and stuff like that. So what Josh is picking up is the tea for me is more, it's more like an earthiness actually, and a kind of and a wee bit of a herbal character. What do you think about the fruity side of this one?
What do you think about cherries?
Cherries?
I feel like I'm like getting like a little bit more of like some of like the darker cherries. I mean, if some of you ever had, I want to say the cherry liqueur. I want to say like a dark cherry liqueur that you might be able to taste. Yeah.
See, I can see that. I get a little bit more like black currant. For me, it's a little bit more oily. Cherries, I don't know. Again, this is always interesting too, because I've tried a few fruits in America, and the blueberries aren't quite as sharp as they are in Europe, and the raspberries are like really juicy, whereas in Scotland they're very sharp. For me, that's black currant, and I think this is interesting. You're getting the cherry, I'm getting the black currant. Because yeah, for me it's black currant and maybe just a very slight like pruny, like dry plum kind of thing.
I think that's what I was like smelling before. I think I was saying I smell like a little more like black licorice.
Yeah, it's interesting, sure. Yeah. Will we dive in and see what we get?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Slange it. There you go. What's your first smell?
I want to say as kind of you switch the beer around, warm it up a bit in your mouth. One of like the first things that you get is one, the beer obviously it refoams itself, and you kind of get this like creamy chocolate type of like flavor. I want to say almost like like a filling in a pastry kind of thing. It's really delicious, but it's not like the cheap chocolate and stuff that you get at one of these everyday stores. It's kind of a rich chocolate flavor that I'm getting, but almost like kind of, I want to say, it's towards the end, because now I'm starting to get a little bit of coffee, like roasted beans. That's what I'm getting right now. It kind of feels like a dark cup of coffee, if you like, black coffee.
Yeah. Because that's, for me, it's quite, I get a lot of for me, the backbone of the beer is like a slightly toasty rye bread crust. Mm-hmm. And then I get a wee bit of like woody, nutty kind of undertone to that. Mm-hmm. Then I get rye bread, a sort of sweeter like pumpernickel bread, and then I get the kind of chocolatey, cocoa nibby type thing, like at the back of that middle third of your palate. For me, I get the chocolate. Mm-hmm. And I can see in there, you get that sort of more toasty side of things you're talking about. I think as it gets more and more, you get more toastiness into the aftertaste.
Yeah, sure. I want to say that.
Yeah. But above the bread and the sort of, you have for me, you've got this layer of brown, you've got quite a few layers of brown sugar in this, so when you have the cocoa nib, then you get like a layer of like toasty brown sugar. Mm-hmm. Then there's a slightly more leathery layer, and usually when you get that more leathery layer, that's like to do with the boil in the wort, mm-hmm. with barley wines and Scotch ales and stuff. Like you get these more complex leathery brown mm-hmm. sugars. So I've got toasty brown sugar, leathery brown sugar. Then there's like a little circle above that where it's like a brighter, sweeter caramel almost, like mm-hmm. maybe a bit more fudgy actually.
Actually, that's a good observation.
Yeah, I like that. But again, I'm getting more of this nutty, woody thing into the aftertaste for sure, mm-hmm. and the kind of dry, toasty, cocoa nibby thing you were talking
mm-hmm.
about. Yeah,
that's definitely the finish. I feel like personally, it's like it immediately for me it goes from chocolatey, and then after that it's kind of dries, and the finish towards the end is like you swallow it, you just get that huge toasty flavor towards the end. And I just think it's delicious. I mean, I'm thinking more of like, what am I trying to think? Type of, what am I thinking right now, like, as far as like toasted goes? I want to say toasted almonds, but I'm like, it's not very almondy.
I'm not very, maybe pecan, maybe? I'm not so good at the different types of nuts, to be honest with you. There's not really
pecans are pretty. Actually, you know what? Absolutely. I mean, if anyone's ever had a pecan pie during Thanksgiving or whenever you celebrate Thanksgiving, I think this kind of gets close to the finish of your pecan pie. So basically, imagine your grandmother making this on Thanksgiving, and that finish towards the end on that last piece of pecan pie. That's it towards the end of this.
No, I can see that. Definitely. Yeah, it is more woody and nutty at the aftertaste for sure. On the back third of the palate, the yeasty side of thing, for me, the yeasty character, it's obviously the other flavours are quite similar underneath, but then you get this like sweeter, wholemeal brown bready note, mm-hmm. a bit more woody, a bit more crackery, and like honeycomb around it. Mm-hmm. And it's, flavours taller on that back third of the palate again as you come further forward, and it kind of squashes down mm-hmm. a wee bit. If I think about this one stylistically, it's actually if I think about the Czech Tmavé as a style, this one, the flavour profile is what you'd expect, it's just that little bit cleaner. Mm-hmm. Like the Czech ones would have a bit more smooth, and in fairness, the beer shows more authenticity into the aftertaste, because it thickens up, I think, on the palate, but when you actually drink it, it just feels a little clean mm-hmm. compared to what you would find in Czech. So that could be due to the water profile, maybe the American malts versus the Czech malts. There's a few factors in there, but yeah, it is nice, this one. It's not quite as dry as the German Dunkel, and it does, in fairness, it does have the kind of smoothness of the Czech Tmavé. It's just a bit cleaner. I think that's fair to say, yeah. What do you think about the hoppy part of your palate?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to like agree with you. I want to say definitely what I'm getting. I want to feel it's like toast. Seems like more toasted than anything.
Like I get, on the hoppy side, I get like quite a bit of earthy character, and the earthiness comes forward, and then it's a bit more herbal. Quite a little bit of oily, like floral note on the front corners of the tongue, but then round the front curve of the palate, a bit more like grassy and oily, like a wee bit zesty. Because usually for me, Czech hops are a bit more spicy than the German ones. The German ones are a bit smoother.
Yeah.
So it does. To be honest, this does come across as a bit. The hoppy side of the beer is a bit more German than it is Czech, I would say.
Yeah, I guess in a way, because some other beers have like a little more of like a bite to it, like towards the end, because that's like the amount of spice.
Yeah, definitely. The front third of the palate, then, to round off the tasting, I get in the base like rye bread crust, a sweeter rye bread, a wholemeal like German pumpernickel bread almost. Then that oily bubble where the fruity side of things come out on the front third. So what do you think about the fruity side of the beer?
I think fruity side of the beer, like once again, I'm thinking like dark chocolate, like cherries, and moving on from there, like what else am I thinking? I feel like I almost taste like, I don't know, I could say like where my palate's going off right now, it's kind of like a banana Foster. More of those like finishes. You guys ever had one of those banana beers before? Like the end for me, I just kind of get this like very light hint of like banana towards the end.
I mean, for me, like it's the cherry that Josh was talking about earlier, like in the impact. I get like if you just go behind the front tip of your tongue, you get this cherry impact, but then it kind of mellows out, and I get like more of a, like at the back of that front third of your palate, like a little bit of like prune. Then as you come further forward, it's a little bit more like figgy, bit of oily pear in there as well for sure. And then in the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's like blackcurrant with the oily pear as well. And then I see what you say about the kind of banana thing. Like it has got this like almost sultana or apricot-y flavour into the aftertaste too. Yeah. But yeah, that's nice. It's a solid beer, that actually.
It really is.
Yeah. As I say, stylistically for me, a bit more. The flavour profile shows you more of a Czech sort of thing. The hops are a bit more German. It's just a bit cleaner, I think, than some of the Czech examples of this style I've had. But still, I like this. And that's all you can ask. There's so many beers out there these days. As long as you like it, sure, why not? Mouthfeel-wise, we've said quite a wee bit. So, for me, this is kind of top end, the light-bodied, bottom end, the mid-bodied. Carbonation is fairly smooth in this one, quite oily for a lager, I would say as well.
Honestly.
Yeah. IBU wise, I think we have to talk about perceived and calculated bitterness here. This one, it has a bit of dryness from the malt as well, which could theoretically push your perceived bitterness up, but I'm sure calculated bitterness for this is probably about 20 IBUs, and that's what you'd expect for the style. Malt base is dry underneath, a bit toasty, smoother in the middle, like a dry sweetness on top. Then the fruity character is quite oily and more dry fruits into the aftertaste too. But I like that. I enjoy it.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice beer. This one. So yeah, what was that? It was just called Dark Lager, 5.2%. That's our second beer here at New England Brewing Company. I think we're going to have a look at something a wee bit more hoppy next time.
Definitely.
So let's do it, guys. Cheers.
See you later.
Oh, it doesn't want to stop. There we go. Alright, so as is the case with many American breweries and brew pubs, you've got this little merchandise stand here. So yeah, you can see you've got different kinds of like hoodies and sweaters and things like this up there. You can get a sort of puppies shirt as well, which is kind of nice. You've got your different baseball caps too, and they've got this nice display of stuff just down here as well. Some dinosaurs too, which is quite nice. But yeah, if you stick your head through, you can see they've got lots of different t-shirts and things like this. The Fuzzy Baby Ducks is one of their really popular beers. The Sea Hag is their kind of flagship IPA. And yeah, nice little merchandise stand. Oh, you can also get some duck socks as well. I didn't see that. But yeah, looks really quite nice, this little merch stand that they've got. So yeah, a little look at the merchandise for you here at New England Brewing Company. Alright guys, time for beer tasting number 3 then here at New England Brewing. So yeah, we're going to have a look at one of their kind of flagship beers now. So this one is the White Hag IPA, 6.2% ABV. More of a West Coasty type one, this apparently. And Josh was saying this is one of their, it's quite easy to get this beer.
Yeah, quite easy to get it. I mean, if you go into any, I want to say, any bar, or you know, if you want to pick up a beer anywhere else, the first thing you're going to probably see is a sign that's going to say New England Brewery, and right underneath that you're going to see a Sea Hag. So this is one I want to say a go-to for everybody if you live in Connecticut.
Yeah, oh, quite cool. It's always nice to try these things that people drink quite commonly, and when you go and visit somewhere. So yeah, when this beer poured, the glass is sweating already because it's, I don't know how, it's probably about 30 odd degrees outside. I don't know what that is in freedom degrees, but
it's almost 90, you know,
yeah.
A wee bit hot.
That's about 30, I think, in normal units. Yeah. So yeah, this one when it poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy kind of cream coloured head. This one, a few medium bubbles on the surface, but yeah, quite foamy otherwise. And you can see, I think to you guys it looks a little bit more kind of amber, but to us it's quite a bright straw yellow, to be honest with you. It's not too amber. Not much in the way of visible carbonation. It has got a little bit of natural haze to it, which would indicate that it's unfiltered. And if we're talking West Coast IPAs, for me, these beers can lean two ways. They can be more bready and biscuity, such as Pliny the Elder from Russian River, or they can be a bit more like oily and caramelly, like Sierra Nevada Torpedo. So there's a bit of a spectrum in there. So yeah, we'll take a look at the nose of this one then and see. This one, incidentally, it is German malty that has Pilsner, Munich, and Crystal in it actually. So it's German malts in this beer. And you can, honestly, you can smell that right away. For me, compared to the last one we had, this one just, you see how the bready character is just drier, but it's still got that wee bit of sweetness to it. It's kind of surprising that they would choose German malt for their kind of flagship IPA, but still. So for me, fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of wholemeal bread, but not too much. That's the Crystal that's going to give you that, because they're probably using one or two varieties of Crystal. Fluffy white bread. And you get, in the back of the nose, you get that little dryness from the Pilsner malt. Yeah. And like McVitie's digestive biscuit, definitely. Is that even a thing here in America? No, yeah. So yeah, a little bit of like a cookie note for me then, yeah. Like cookie dough almost, yeah. So you get that little bit of sweetness. Maybe not quite as sweet as cookie dough, but like if you think of how a cookie out the packet smells.
That's what about honeycomb.
Oh yeah, no, that, yeah, definitely. Honeycomb works. It's not really brown sugary, this beer, no. No. More bready in its malty. Yeah. That's what I would say, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, is there much else to say about the malty character? I don't think.
I don't think so.
No.
I want to say this is kind of like quick and to the point with the nose.
Yeah. What do you think about the green side of things?
What's your first instinct on it?
I mean, for me, this one, the green component, again, this is quite like laid back in terms of its aroma. To go to the technical perspective on brewing, usually IPAs will have like a 90-minute wort boil, and when it comes to hopping these beers, you have 3 different ways you can do it. Early addition hopping within the first hour of the wort boil, that will give you mainly bitterness, and it will translate to a really deep, dank aroma, and also you'll get that in the flavour, you'll get more bitterness. Late addition hopping, like within the last half hour of the wort boil, that just gives you a wee bit it gives you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma. And then dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, that's going to give you all flavour and aroma. And it's going to be, the last two are going to be like quite a bright green component. Like you get more brighter floral grassy notes rather than it being so like deep and dank. And for me, this one's actually quite bright. I think this one's more like it has a little bit of dankness to it. Because you said it was 65 IBU, yeah. So that's
63.
63. So that is early edition hopping. To get that level, you need early edition hopping. But it's still not madly. I don't find this beer madly dank. But yeah, a little bit of earthiness, but not too much. Big floral aromaticity to it. Zesty grassiness too.
That's it,
Yeah, there's some, for me there's something familiar about it, so I wouldn't be surprised if Citra is one of the hops in here, because of how it has that a bit of the zesty lemon and the way the grassiness is makes me think Citra.
Definitely, I mean that's a great guess. I mean definitely thinking the orange feels like for sure, and I want to say almost like, I don't know, like wheatgrass.
Oh yeah, like wheat or lemongrass. Yeah, I'm pretty sure about Citra. There could well be a more orangey hop in here, like Amarillo or Mosaic. There's so many. It used to be back in the day when I started these videos. It used to be quite easy to guess the hops because there wasn't that many of them. Now there's loads, so now it's more difficult. But I think on the, it has a little bit of lemon limey note. What do you think about the fruits?
I mean, without a doubt, orange. Yeah, without a doubt, orange. But I feel like that's an easy guess. Apricot.
Yeah. I'm thinking mosaic. You know that orange. The fact that it has a wee bit of earthiness and a bit of the sort of, it's more a juicy orange rather than being so oily. That makes me think mosaic. That's what makes me think mosaic. Yeah. Could be a little bit of like Idaho 7 or something because it has like a really soft like mango-y, apricot-y, papaya type thing, and that's Idaho 7 usually can give you that. But there are a few hops that can do that. I still want to say Citra because it's got a wee bit of this sharper peach and juicy mango.
Yeah, definitely peach. That's a good guess.
Not too much grapefruit or passion fruit, I would say. More peachy sharpness, yeah. But it's nice anyway. I mean, the aroma is good. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, besides the fact that, like, if you ever decide to come to New England Brewery, I mean, that's one thing that I want to say that this company is known for is that you're going to just opening the can of the beer or just pouring a beer for yourself. Like, there has such a great aroma and anything that you can possibly get from this this company. So I think it's a good choice to go with. It's pretty close. If you're ever around the New Haven area, it's not that far. I want to say it's about like 10 minutes or so from the downtown area if you want to come out here. It's kind of going out a little bit to the boonies, but it's definitely worth the trip and you won't regret coming out.
And this is the thing for me, when we were doing the other videos in New Jersey, it took us ages to go around there just because of the traffic. Here, we were here in, 10 minutes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then. So Sea Hag, 6.2%?
6.2.
6.2, Slangia. Oh yeah, West Coast IPA, absolutely. Yeah. What's your first thought?
My first thought is, I want to say is for sure honeycomb. I want to say like it's not incredibly hoppy. I want to say it's pretty even. So like if you're really not like a hoppy type of person, this is a good starter beer to kind of work your way into it. What else? Honeycomb. Definitely orange. I mean, if you're getting that citrus towards the end. I want to see like towards the end of like your palate, like the last thing that you're going to taste is that heavy citrus.
Yeah.
It's like not like too heavy, but you definitely taste the citrus towards the end.
I mean, this really wouldn't surprise me. Just there's something just really familiar about this beer, and it would not surprise me if this was Citra Mosaic. It wouldn't surprise me. It's a time-old combination. It wouldn't surprise me if that was yours. Pardon me going on with this one. It's a really nice West Coaster though, actually, yeah. And this is one of the things too, you'll notice with this, you see how the mouthfeel, the malt is quite oily. That's because it's all barley malt. The New Englands have that smoother, creamy thing because of the oat and wheat.
Which that's what I love. I feel like the last 3 beers we've had so far, like it's the creaminess towards the end that like I really like, because you just kind of get this, like first taste, it's kind of like a flavor burst that goes under your mouth, and then it's like creamy, and then that finish, at least the finish towards the end of this, it's either citrus, or the last beer that we had, we're getting more like toasted and cherries afterwards. So, like the great thing about this beer that I really feel, see what I enjoy about a beer is that as it warms up, you're getting consistent different flavor combinations, which like really gives you a true insight on what the beer actually tastes like. Because if you just kind of sip a beer like cold, I mean, you'll get a portion of what the beer tastes like cold. But if you really kind of hold it in your mouth, like really do everything you possibly can to kind of take in all of the flavors that it has, you're going to get so much more out of the beer and be able to understand why this is the top-notch beer to have. Yeah.
I mean, this is quite a good staple. I mean, obviously IPAs in America are probably the most popular style amongst craft beer drinkers.
Absolutely.
But this is good. This is a pretty damn solid one. I mean, for us, the staple American IPA that we're going to get is probably the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That's a Pale Ale rather than IPA, but flavour profile-wise, it's quite similar to this. But this is good. Let's break it down then and actually describe the flavour. So, like, middle third of the palate for me, the backbone is a fresh white bready bread crust. As always, you get a wee bit of woody, very slightly nutty character toward the kind of the front of that middle third of the palate. Little touch of sweeter wholemeal brown bread. That's German crystal malt that's giving you that. Then you get like quite a dense and smooth white bread above that. I mean, this just feels very familiar to me because of the German malt. And then so it's quite, this isn't too complex. It's one of these beers that's just nicely brewed, nicely done, and it's obviously, this is one of their flagships. What was it? She said, was it like 65% of their output is this beer or something? It was something like that.
65% of their output is CHAG.
Yeah. So this one's obviously been refined quite a bit over the years. So yeah, bread crust, brown bread, white bread, then you start to get the sweeter side of the beer. Like at the back of that that middle third of your palate, you get some of the drier Pilsner malty character. It's on top of that, you get a little bit of the sweetness. There's like a little circle in the middle of your palate, and in the dead centre, it's like concentrated, like oily, biscuity type note. And as you move further out, you get the more McVitie's digestive biscuity honeycomb for you kind of flavour. And you get, that's the Pilsner, it's a mix of the Pilsner malt and I suspect one of the crystal malts that's giving you that. The back third of your palate, you're getting the similar flavours, but just the bready layers are a bit lighter, more airy. The yeasty side of things for me is quite, again, it's kind of quite similar. It's like this dense, sweet white bread wrapped in honeycomb.
That's actually a phenomenal guess, because I was literally just thinking that earlier, is that it's like kind of fresh baked bread. It's like kind of that first bite into it, it's still warm, you pull it out of the oven. I want to say that I get that more towards the center of the palate, and every sip I'm kind of looking for that. It's kind of one of those things that trigger like a memory from your childhood, or if you just, I don't know if you guys are bakers or not, but it's something that I really think that I enjoy having this, because it brings so much memories to you because of that taste of that fresh yeast bread that just got pulled out of the oven.
I mean, you see how compared to the other ones, you see what I mean about the, this is just the malty character. It's just that bit drier. And that's, for me, that's the main difference between the American malt and the German malt. The German malt is just a little bit drier, and the American malt's gives you a more oily, sweet flavour. I think the American palate is generally sweeter than the European palate.
I agree with that.
I think that covers the malty, yeasty side of the beer. What do you think about the kind of green component on the edges of the palate?
I want to say as far as the grain component comes for me, like I'm just going more. I'm still thinking more on like the leaves. I like wheatgrass. That's what I'm getting. That's my thinking. But what else are you thinking? What I'm thinking?
I'm thinking that, I mean, I get a wee bit, if I go to the back corners of the palate, very often you get earthiness, but the earthiness is quite, I do get more and more of that into the aftertaste, and that makes me think, I'm pretty sure there's mosaic in this. I would not be surprised if this is a Citra mosaic beer. The Citra gives you this tangerine and this earthy note, and as I say, it's just setting off it's a contextual cue for me, if we can call it that. But yeah, as you come further forward, it gets more and more, like, it has got a bit of deeper, danker character to this one, so early edition hopping, I'm pretty sure. So you can feel a bit of deep, dank character. But then as you reach the front corner of the palate, it's the front corners of your tongue, sorry, it's a bit more floral and spicy. And then front curve of the palate, like wet, freshly cut grass. I never said this earlier, actually. She did tell us this had just been kegged this morning, didn't she? So this is a very fresh batch of this beer. And this is one of the things, West Coast IPAs, you can drink really fresh and they'll come out nice. So this New England IPAs, I think you need to let them sit for about 2 weeks, otherwise you just get the hot burn. And I think that's, I don't know the chemistry behind that. I should actually read about that a bit more, but the West Coast IPAs are always really good when they're this fresh.
Yeah.
But the New Englands are a bit, you just get too much green out of them. But this is, for me, the green component, like quite deep and dank floral, a little bit of more spicy floral, and then a wee touch of like more wet, zesty, grassy notes. Base of that front third of the palate for me, bit of white bread crust, soft white bread, then the oily fruity bubbles above that. So what do you think for fruitiness?
Fruitiness, I feel like I'm going more apricot now. I feel like as I continue to keep tasting the beer, that's one of the first things that pop up to me is more apricot. After that, I'm moving more to orange. And then, as I told you before, I've got the honeycomb. Obviously it's not a fruit. But what else am I getting from this that I want to say? I mean, it's definitely like, I want to say it's definitely citrusy. And it kind of also like leaves your tongue, I want to say, at least mine's like not like lightly numb or anything like that, but I think maybe it's like kind of spiciness that's kind of like my tongue's reacting to right now.
Yeah, because if you get a little bit of acidity, it makes your tongue feel like it's a bit waxy and sweaty. So maybe this beer has a wee bit of that. But yeah, for me, the fruity sort of thing, the apricot, absolutely, and I get more of that into the aftertaste. I get a bit of on the front half of that front third of your tongue, tangerine orange. It has a wee bit of like this lychee gooseberry thing for me. I'm pretty sure this has got Citra and mosaic in it. I'll need to ask them afterwards. I'm pretty sure of that. But yeah, the back of that front third of your tongue, you do get a wee touch of grapefruit. The sharper peachy notes I was picking up in the aroma, you don't get so much of that in this one. Could be a bit Simcoe in this, that wouldn't surprise me either. Galaxy's another option from Australia. Galaxy's like, it's almost like you combine Citra and Simcoe. That's an Australian Galaxy, could be a shout too. Playing guess the hops is so hard these days, but yeah, grapefruit, bit of passion fruit, softer apricot as you reach the middle, maybe a bit of juicy mango. Then the front half, tangerine orange on top and a wee bit of like a gooseberry lychee sort of thing. Nearly certain about Citra in this one. Pretty sure about mosaic. There could be something else like Galaxy or Simcoe in this. Wouldn't surprise me, but bit surer of the other two. Mouthfeel wise, then, what do we say? Mid-body, middle of the spectrum, I think. Really smooth and slick, actually. Quite an oily beer.
Absolutely.
But not the most oily, more slick. Smooth and slick is a fair descriptor. We know the IBUs are 65, or is it 63? I forget.
I think it's 63.
Yeah. So thereabouts. The malt base, bit dry underneath, smooth in the middle, little touch sweet on top. And then the fruity character is quite citrusy leaning, but also quite zesty too. This is it's a nice beer.
It really is.
Solid one. This. Anything else we should say?
What else? I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think we've covered this one. Yeah, I've enjoyed this. So that was the Sea Hag, 6.2%, West Coast IPA, definitely. One of the flagship beers here at New England Brewing Company. I think we're going to do one more, and that'll probably finish us off here at New England. So catch you guys in a little second with something else.
See you later.
So yeah guys, I have to say this kind of made me smile. So they say please don't feed the brewers, and you can see them working away on all the tanks and stuff up here. I'd be very curious to know how much fermentation capacity they actually have, but the brew kit's obviously away up at the far end there where you can see the guy just walking. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But they also have their own cheddar cheeses, which are which must be quite nice, I'm sure. But yeah, interesting to have a little insight to the brewery. But as I say, don't feed the brewers. Alright guys, well, time for our fourth and final tasting then here at New England Brewing. So Josh had a little taste of this beer earlier and thought it was pretty nice.
Oh, this is delicious.
Yeah, and it's also named after what was my favourite dinosaur when I was a wee boy. And you know, it's reasons like this, when you come across a brewery you don't know, and they've got a lot of beers of the same style, you think, oh, I like that artwork, I like that name. That's how it goes. That is literally how it goes. So yeah, this particular beer is the Stegosaurus. It comes in at 8.2% ABV. It's an IPA, a double IPA, and it was hopped with, remember, Citra, Mosaic, and Azacca, if I remember rightly. Probably don't, but yeah, still. But yeah, as you can see, this one, lovely kind of pale golden straw colour again. Lovely sort of, when it poured, it had about a half finger-ish of a kind of cream coloured head there. Lovely little foamy bit on the top. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass. Kind of steady stream going up towards the bottom of the head there. And you can see it's got a really nice kind of clarity to it. You can see my fingers through the glass there, which is nice. Yeah, aroma then. Let's do it. Oh, this is definitely more New England. That's definitely more New England.
I mean, this just smells all around great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very New Englandy. That, I mean, you see, you get a lot of oatiness out of that for sure. As I said earlier, the main difference between West Coast and New England is that New England has more wheat and oats and stuff in it. Still quite oily though, isn't it? Yeah. So, backbone of the beer for me, white bready bread crust. Mainly white bread, but there's a little bit of a sweeter brown bread in there as well. This smells as if it's American malted rather than European malted. There's a wee bit of wheaty bitiness on the back of the nose. The oats are definitely there. You get that kind of like it's more like oatmeal actually, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go more for like a spiced cookie, or I would say like an oatmeal cookie. Like that's exactly what I get like when I smell it.
Oh yeah, no, like Werther's original butter candy, butterscotch as well. Yeah.
It's like one of those. I want to say like butter cookies. I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Werther's original butter candy, butterscotch, like butter.
What are the Scotch cookies you guys have? Like the
shortbread.
The shortbread. That's what I'm getting. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah. The power of suggestion. Anything else we should say about the malty side of the beer?
I don't know. Unless you want me to name more cookies.
I don't know the American cookies, so I don't know. Yeah. Green component. Teeny bit earthy, and that's going to be Mosaic out of the hops in here. I can't remember if it was Citra or Simcoe that's in this, but it's Mosaic and Azacca are the other two. So the earthiness will be coming from the Mosaic for sure. Very nice, bright floral note to this one. Still quite wet, and you know, when you've got humidity and heat like this, I can definitely understand that. Yeah, a bit of zesty grassiness too, yeah.
Let's say like fresh cut grass, or walking into like a flower shop or so, like that smell you kind of get, like that aroma, like that's what I'm kind of getting with it.
Quite a wet sort of, wet, freshly cut grass, and you get quite a bright, florist type note out of it. That's a good analogy as well, yeah. fruity side of the beer. Pineapple for me.
Ooh, that's good. Actually, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
That's going to be Azaka out of these three that will give you that. Azaka's always got this like mandarin-y, tangerine note, but quite a lot of juicy pineapple. There is a bit of passion fruit, apricot underneath, but pineapple is prominent in this one, I would say.
I'd say so. I mean, as soon as you pointed it out to me, I can't smell anything but pineapple now.
Power of suggestion. Yeah. The glass is literally it's sweating in this heat. I can feel the water just going down my wrist. I do get a wee bit like a soft tangerine underneath this.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. No, aroma-wise, it's really nice. Anything else we should say?
Yeah, I think we checked off everything.
I think that. So this is our last beer here at New England Brewing Company, Stegosaurus. Slange it.
Well, without a doubt, juicy.
Oh yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, that's delicious. Wow, so many great things.
Very smooth, very clean, oily, but that's definitely got. You don't get that smoothness without the oats. And this is the weird thing, because this is like, it reminds me of when I first tried Lawson's, because Lawson's Finest Liquids are really interesting, because obviously we have this conception about New England IPAs being very oaty, creamy, and kind of hazy. But when I tried Lawson's, it was like they'd taken the West Coast IPA, but put oat in it, still kept it filtered almost, and then just showing you the kind of smoother, oily side. So this really reminds me of the Lawson's beers. This one, it's good, eh?
Yeah. I saw these going like oatmeal cookie. And almost like the finish, like the creaminess is almost kind of like buttery.
It's definitely quite barley malt heavy, but there has to be a bit of oat in that for sure. Because you wouldn't get the kind of smoothness and kind of oily sweetness out of it that you would otherwise. It is almost like it's either like the Lawson's New England IPAs, which as I say are a bit more barley malt leaning and oily, or it's like a modern take on a West Coast IPA with a low bitterness. You could interpret it two ways. Middle third of the palate anyway. Fresh white ready bread crust, definitely. Bit of cracker, like cream cracker toward, like I don't know what American comparison would be, but like a cream cracker toward the front of that middle third of your palate. Wee bit of like wholemeal brown bread, but not very much. White bread, like quite an airy white bread. You can feel that there's a bit of denser wheaty character in there as well, but again, it's not. The malt base feels quite light, I think, in this beer. And then above that, a little bit of oatiness. You get like down the line of your palate, you get this sweet, like it's almost like a dense oatmeal, but very slightly creamy as well. So a little bit of a dense oaty creamy thing. You get a bit of dryness out of it.
I think more like pie crust.
That's
Yeah.
Could see that. Because it almost has that wee bit of vanilla into the aftertaste too. Actually, that's interesting. But in the centre of your palate, little circle there, Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch, definitely. And when it's 8.2%, that's kind of to be expected, really. I think that covers the middle third of the palate, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Back third of the palate, the flavours are similar. The bread crust is there, but a bit drier. The cracker is there. The brown bready layer is a bit more present, but lighter and more airy. The white bread is there. You get a bit of bitiness from the wheat. Then the yeast. And the yeasty character is kind of similar to what we've had in the last beer, the Sea Hag, rather. I was going to say White Hag, that's an Irish brewery. You get this mixture of brown and white bread, like a dense, like a really dense and sweeter bread wrapped in kind of honeycomb or biscuit or something like that.
Ooh, or if you've ever been to Prague, you've got one of those ice cream cones. It's like a churro, like wraparound cone that they make.
Oh, that, yeah. That's a shout, yeah. But yeah, back third of the palate, flavour's taller, middle third of the palate, it condenses down and squashes together. And yeah, that is quite nice. So for me, green component is very wet in this one. Very, very wet green component. So that probably means a lot of late addition and a lot of dry hopping rather than early addition hopping. This beer is not really bitter. A little bit into the aftertaste, but really not much. Earthiness in the back corners. Herbal further forward. A little bit more floral aromaticity. Bit of zesty grassiness around the front curve of the tongue. Gets drier the further in the aftertaste, but yeah, mainly wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like other beers that we've had that like kind of completely dry out your mouth afterwards. I want to say like this is. I want to say like for me, I get juicy. It's kind of like, you know, you bite into a tangerine that first blast, and then after that you have like the hints, like you said, of the oats that you're going with, and you know, a bunch of other flavors after.
Oh yeah, it's a lovely beer, this one. I really like how this pieces together. What do you think about the fruity side of the beer? I mean, front third of the palate, white bread crust, quite a dense white bread, then it's the oily fruity bubble. What do you think about the fruits?
I'm going to go grapefruit. Like that's kind of like what I'm picking up. I go like a little bit more grapefruit. Obviously the apricot, but I feel like, you know, at this point we're overusing the word apricot. Got to dig deeper. Yeah, that's what I feel at the moment. More grapefruit, apricot. For some random reason, I'm thinking more of like this kind of, like you said, this earthiness, and I'm thinking more of like herbal tea, going more for, I know I said earlier, like the beer we had last, no, the beer before that was more of kind of like an Earl Grey that I'm kind of getting. I want to say something's kind of like a homey taste to it.
It's interesting, because it's funny you say this one's more grapefruit. I get a lot more orange out of this one. I get a lot of it, because I think you thought the other beer was quite orangey, but I got more grapefruit in there. Yeah, this is quite interesting.
Time to flip flop.
Yeah, because for me, this one, I get a bit of the grapefruit into the aftertaste for sure. At the back of the front third of your palate, I do get the apricot, pardon me, like a little bit of an oily mango for sure, and passion fruit, which I'm pretty sure Simcoe was the hop in this one, but yeah, I get a lot of you get the oily pineapple for sure into the aftertaste, but I get a lot of orange, and that's the mosaic and the Azaka that's going to give you that. Really nice, it really does remind me of the Lawson's beers, really does. We're getting waved by the guys we were chatting to earlier. They're away in their Ford Ranger. But yeah, lovely beer. I mean, mouthfeel then to round off. I think it actually, for its ABV, it's actually quite light and easy to drink. Covers its alcohol very well. Mid-bodied, like middle of the spectrum. This really isn't madly thick, I don't think.
No, not at all.
It's actually lighter than the Sea Hag was, I would say. And that Dunkel Lager, to be honest with you. I thought the Dunkel Lager was a bit heavier than this. But yeah, really slick, oily mouthfeel. IBU-wise, I think this is about 40, because you do get a bitterness out of this one into the aftertaste. I feel like that as well. Malt base, a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, sweeter on top. Gives you a little bit of an oily booziness into the aftertaste too. And yeah, the fruity character I think is quite oily. Pardon me for sure. Yeah. Anything else? No, I think we've
covered it.
Yeah. So that was the Stegosaurus, an 8.2%. Yeah, like Lawson type IPA from New England Brewing Company here in Amity, between New Haven and Hamden in Connecticut. Quite a nice way to round off our first out and about video in Connecticut. So thank you to J-Man for joining in the videos.
Oh, thanks for having me. On to the next one.
Yeah, that's it. So guys, I'll catch you in a second. I'll tell you my final thoughts on our time here, and yeah, see you in a second. So yeah guys, Josh spotted this just out the corner of his eye. So it turns out that New England Brewing have the Hagmobile, as it's known. So yeah, Sea Hag IPA. Kind of reminds me of the Batmobile a little bit, but just like an American pickup truck. But on the back here, yeah, it says Hagmobile. No idea what kind of Ford it is. I'm not a massive kind of car geek, but yeah, you might see the Hagmobile driving around in southeastern Connecticut or further afield. You never know. Alright guys, well that is our time over then here at New England Brewing in Amity. So yeah, we had a nice couple of hours here. Really cool to get Josh on the channel to do some beer reviews with us. But yeah, we got to try a few different styles. We had a nice Helles Lager, a Czech Cherny, and then a couple of different IPAs as well. Unfortunately nothing dark on at this time of year, but I mean, with the humidity and stuff that we have at this point, it's understandable, to be quite honest with you. But in total, we had 8 sort of 7-ounce things, so that's maybe about 200 millilitres, something like that. That was $28, and obviously you leave a tip and things like that, but $28 is about 280, 300 Swedish kroner, 28 euros, maybe 24, 25 pounds sterling, or something like that. But yeah, really enjoyed our time here. Big shout out to Alex behind the bar. She was great walking us through all the beers and things like that. So yeah, definitely cool to do my first out and about video here in Connecticut. But we're going to go away and try another place now. So you'll see another video coming up very soon. Till the next time, slange it, skull, cheers, check out my social media, try some of the New England Brewing Company beers, and we'll catch you guys in another out and about video very soon. Cheers.